lower your expectations. So yes, hi, yes. So I was asked here. Actually, first, let me just say that I'm a writer, okay? And I was asked to come here today to tell a story. So normally the way it works with writers is we have an idea in our head and we write it down. So I have a story where I had an idea in my head, but instead of writing it down, I actually lived it. And this idea turned into something amazing. And now it needs to be written down and become a best-selling novel or have its own Netflix special, or where, you know, someone like Penelope Cruz would play me, or, you know, Salon. Anyway, so this story is about the importance of perseverance, which I have found is one of the most important things that you can have if you're trying to accomplish anything in your life. Because what happens is people have ideas. You have crazy ideas in your head, but it takes a lot of courage and risk to actually make that idea into a reality. So to get started, let's go back to March of 2020. Actually, no, let's go back to the summer of 2014, okay? I was in Paris, France, and I met a certain violinist that you all know right now, that you all just met. So I met this French man in his violin, and he literally swept me off my feet. The first day we met, he invited me to a show that was at a little bar across the corner from my apartment. So I walked over there, I heard a new kind of music that I'd never heard before called gypsy jazz, and I loved it. And then he offered to give me a ride home, and you know, I took that risk. I said yes. And we walked outside, and he had a little two-seater car that was a convertible. So I hopped in, and the top was down. The car's top, not my top. So top was down, and yeah, he drove me around Paris, and it was, you know, so romantic. We went under the Eiffel Tower, we went over the bridges of the Seine, we went up into the hills of Montmartre. The summer, you know, air was blowing in my hair, and I was like, wow, this is my movie, right? And I spent the rest of my summer with him. You know, he was playing in little cafes and bars all over France. He went on tour with his jazz band, and I was going to these little jazz festivals. I was eating baguettes and brie and wine and just having the time of my life. And then 90 days since my arrival happened, and I had to go back to the US because I only had a tourist visa. So we said our goodbyes, and you know, we hugged and said I love you, and he promised he would visit me, and then, you know, I landed back in LA, and a week later I realized something. I had this profound revelation that I knew meant I had to go back. And I was pregnant. So that led to a very awkward Skype call, because back then there was no Zoom. So a Skype conversation, and you know, Jeremy flew out to meet my family, and then I moved back to France, and both of our children were born there. And then we decided we're gonna try to make our life here in the US. So we moved back to California, and then we're deciding, where are we gonna live? Where are we gonna like set up a foundation? In the meantime, we had this other crazy idea that I'm not gonna get really into, but I'll just tell you. We bought a 1984 school bus and turned it into a tiny house. Very beautiful. But, you know, we didn't end up living in it. But anyway, so we were like, where are we going to park this bus and where are we going to live? And we thought of the Joshua Tree area because there's a lot of artists up here, and also because it was very cheap, right? This was in 2018. We were looking at land out here, and you could get it for under $1,000 an acre. So our property that we bought had been sitting on the market. It was 15 acres for about 4 years, and it was going for like 20. We offered 10, they counted 11. So we were like, okay, we'll take it. Nobody wanted to live up here. I mean, my family was like, you can't go to Joshua Tree. There's all those meth labs and weirdos. Like, what are you doing out there? And so I was like, no, we love it. It's magical. So we bought the land. We moved up here in a rental, and then we started, sketching our dream home. We started, getting building plans going and all that stuff, okay? Now we're in March 2020. Everybody knows what happened. COVID-19, right? Everything shut down. So that also meant our building plans. Like, we didn't know what was going on or how long this would last. But most importantly, my husband's career just completely shut down. So all of his gigs were canceled, international tour canceled, everything stopped. And it was a scary time. So there I was one day in the shower, because most good ideas come in the shower, right? Which is kind of inconvenient, because then, how do you write it down when you're like, anyway, so there I was thinking, like, okay, we have this property. It's like, what can we, and then, Jeremy, and I had seen him play, like, in so many different places, festivals, bars, out on the streets in Paris, busking. So I knew he could play anywhere. So I thought, okay, what if we played music on our property and people could come and stay in their own little bubbles by staying in their car? So it would be a drive-in show. So somehow, like, when I had this idea, I was like, yeah, this is great. And I was so excited, and I ran out and I told Jeremy, and he was like, skeptical, like, are you crazy? I was like, yeah, no, people, like, they can just roll down the window, and they'll park not even 10 feet away from each other. We have so much space. And then he was like, let's do it, and we're going to stream it on the radio, so they don't even have to roll down their window, because back then we didn't know how contagious everything was. So we had that idea on a Tuesday, and then we had the show on that Saturday. So I put up a post on a Facebook group, and I said, hey, we're going to do this. If anybody wants to come, meet here at this time. No, actually, it wasn't like that. It was email me with all your information, like your name, your car, everything. I need to know details. And it was scary, because back then there was like no gathering orders. You weren't even allowed to go outside technically, unless you had to go to like the grocery store. So gathering wasn't allowed, only essential things and whatever. But what was happening was we had seen that churches, they were hosting drive-in services. So we thought, okay, you know what? Music is our religion. And we're going to gather under this Joshua tree, and this is our church. The outdoors is our church. And that's how, if anybody's going to, ask me, hey, what are you doing? That's what I'm going to say. Amen. So, amen. So we had our first show. There was 8 cars. We had a rug on the floor. We had 1 hour of battery on the speakers, because it was out in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of wind, as usual, around here. But we did it, and people loved it, and they asked when was the next one. So we came back the next weekend, and then the next weekend, and the next weekend, and the next weekend. And then before we knew it, we had a long list of musicians that were like, hey guys, can I come play with you? Hey, sign me up, please, think of me next show. And we weren't charging for this. It was just like a free thing. We wanted to see if it was going to work. We didn't want anyone to not be able to come, because so many people were out of work at that time. But these musicians, they were like, yeah, I want to play with you, even though they knew we weren't offering anything, because we couldn't. So it started growing and building momentum organically, just word of mouth. The community started seeing what we were doing, and suddenly it got kind of out of control. It was just the 2 of us. So he would be running around like setting up all the audio or whatever. I would be running around, parking cars and like trying to fit. We were up to like 25 cars at this point. My kids were like, Mom, over here in the corner. I was like, guys, please. And it was getting out of control. It was growing a lot faster than we could handle. And we were like, where is this going? Like, are we sure we want to do this? And then one day, I got an email. That was like, hey, great show. Thank you for doing this. But here's a list of all the things that you should be doing and that you were doing wrong. Or something like that. I was like, okay. It was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 things. And I was like, I never thought about that. And then at the end, it was like, I'd love to help you. You need me. Please call me. And that was Jen.
Awesome.
I was like, wow, she knows what she's talking about. Oh my God. So Jen and Spencer both stepped in and were like, we're going to help you do this right. And, they have all their years of experience doing, national festivals all over the U.S. So they knew what they were doing. And at that point, we were getting over 30 cars registered, and that's a lot. That's a lot for us to handle. So they came in, and then next thing you know, another person came in and was like, hey, I want to help you build a stage. Our friend Michael. He raised his hand and he came and, him and Jeremy built the stage that is there now. Another person came in and was like, hey guys, I have this weird piece of art that I would like to share with the community. Can I share it at your place? And it was this really like sketchy tower that was like super high that you had to like sign a liability waiver to get on. But he brought it. That's Ryan over here.
Yeah. That's a great tower.
And people love the tower, and thankfully nobody fell.
Nice.
And then more and more people started raising their hand, and it all just kind of organically came together. Like when we needed the help, people stepped in. The right people stepped in, people that, showed up week after week, and we were like deep in the throes of the pandemic where, it didn't seem like anything was getting better. It was like the winter of 2020, no signs of anything reopening. So at that point, we were doing 3 shows a week. I think we all had some kind of a burnout. And then there was a little pushback from the community that didn't understand what we were doing. So the one thing that sticks in my mind is a show that we had where, we're doing a little gypsy jazz, and then suddenly there's like this crazy dust storm. Well, it turns out that a truck had just driven across the property and started doing donuts right next to our guests. And it was so scary because we didn't know if they were gonna run over everyone. We didn't know what they were doing. They were obviously there to cause issue or drama, and Jeremy jumped off stage to chase them. I was chasing them with like a flashlight in my hand, like, hey, what are you doing? And it was from a certain group of people out here who didn't understand what we were doing, thought we were like being exclusive, or thought that we were, playing the wrong kind of music. For example, we got some death threats on Facebook because people were like, you have certain like Antifa artists on your stage, or it was kind of back then. You gotta remember it was chaos, right? Because we had a very chaotic leader. So there was a lot of that going on here, and unfortunately that spilled onto what we were doing a little bit. But we had our fence post broken down, we had stuff stolen from the property, we had the infamous go back to LA, that crowd, slap stickers on our bus that is parked out there.
And I will not go back to LA.
Yeah, we're like, we're not even from there. But we kept going. it was scary. We were like, holy shit, that sucks that you walk into your own property and you don't feel comfortable. You're like looking over your shoulder. But we kept going. I will say that 99% of the feedback that we got was positive. People were like grateful. People should express gratitude. And one of the ways they expressed gratitude was by donating. And so that's how we started raising funds to pay our artists, a lot of them out of work, to pay our volunteer staff, also out of work. And then we got into grants. So we got awards from the National Endowment for the Arts, California Arts Council, San Bernardino Arts Council. So it just kept scaling and growing and scaling. And then something happened. We got hit with a lawsuit. It was from our neighbor. So we had a neighbor who had a glamp ground, 30-person glamp ground, very bougie, like $1,500 a night kind of thing. And we knew him, we were friends, and we minded our own business, and he did his thing. But the thing with the concerts is that we were there every weekend, multiple days a week, so we actually got to see how our property was being used. And he was going right across our property to reach to his, not just him, but all of his guests, all of his vendors, all of his employees. This is a 30-person capacity, so it's like a big thing. And they weren't careful, they weren't respectful. They were driving like 50 miles per hour on dirt roads. We were having our concerts, they didn't care, they were like just blaring through. We tried to talk to him about it. Anyway, we woke up one day, no, actually it was kind of embarrassing. I woke up one day and my grandma, my nana called me, and she had been served papers at her house because that's where my official address was. And so, anyway, so they served my grandma for me. She accepted the papers. That's how I knew we had been sued. So you take like all of this stress of like running a venue, essentially what it became a venue, having the responsibility of all of these grants, booking the artists, promoting the shows, and then we had a lawsuit on top of that. It was just like really, really hectic for 2021. But we kept going. I don't know I think it's because for me personally, I am a people person. I love parties. I know how important music is for my husband. So when I was at a show, I always felt so happy. I loved seeing and meeting all of these members of the community, and like seeing how, people would come up to me and tell me, I have a physical disability, and this is one of the only ways that I can get out to enjoy live music. Or my son has a mental handicap, and when he comes out here, he feels like he can express himself and nobody's judging. Or like elderly people are like coming and they feel comfortable. Families with parents were like, yeah, my kids can run around and it's not a big deal, but they can also hear live music. Or like, all these kinds of people were affected by this in a positive way. So that was really motivating for me, and that gave me the fuel to keep going. And I had a wonderful team of volunteers that just showed up every weekend, and everything was so professionally done, and that's what got us all of the awards and all the funding and everything. So I guess, all this to say, like, when you have an idea and it's a risky one like that, the biggest thing that's going to make a difference is perseverance. You can take that initial leap, take that risk, but if you don't keep going, nobody else is going to keep going but you. And a lot of times I felt, as the person responsible for this place, I knew that there were so many times that if I said, you know what, fuck this, I have a full-time job, like I have 2 kids, why am I doing this? like I said, I did it because I saw how it changed people's lives. I saw how it changed the people I love, how it changed their lives. And that's what kept me going. So don't let your ideas die, you know. If you really believe in them, you gotta keep going.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, any questions?
Don't forget the part where you won.
Yeah, what happened with the neighbor?
Okay, good question. So I just got an update like 2 weeks ago. The lawsuit has been dismissed by a judge. It was a lot of hard work. What ended up happening is the county of San Bernardino, so this neighbor had no permits for his vacant property. Which we told our lawyer, like, how can he sue us? His business is not even legal. But
Yes.
it had to get to the point where the county like gave him an official citation or something like that. So once the judge saw that, because the county sued him, it was a mess, and he went to a court with the county. He went to a superior court after he filed appeals. He lost, and the next step for him was an arraignment where he was going to be charged. And so once the judge saw that he was up for an arraignment, he dismissed the case because he was like, there is no case.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, he can pass. He's our neighbor. He has a property there. He has no home, but none of his commercial guests can pass, and that's what we wanted. So, yay!
That's great.
That's really
Thank
something.
you.
When is the next show?
Yeah, when's season 4?
Oh my God, season 4.
Season 4.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
God, we are in season
How many shows did we do?
Android something.
Yeah, over 100.
Tell me again what it is exactly.
So it's a drive-in concert series.
Okay.
So we have a property that has this one like huge Joshua tree, and we decided to build our stage in front of it, and then we parked the cars in a semicircle fashion around the stage. There's like 2 rows, and so people now they tailgate or they walk around freely, but back then you could stay in your own little bubble of the car, and you like could listen with the windows down, or you could sit on your car, or you could tailgate. Now people just get out and bring their chairs.
Nice.
But it transcended the pandemic. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen after other venues will reopen, but it's actually a pretty cool way to watch a show.
That's great.
Fantastic.
You bring your own picnic, you do your own thing.
And how did you develop with the artist who's doing the live art during the show?
Oh,
How
yeah.
did that come to be?
Maurice.
Maurice.
His
Because
art,
my friend Anna Stump did live art at one of your shows.
she did. She did this whole, like, jackrabbit thing. It was so cool in one show.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, same thing. They came to a show, him and Maurice and his wife, and then they were like, hey, do you mind if we bring like a canvas and some paints to the next show? And we were like, yeah, bring it. So then for the longest time, it was like our main stage, and then he would just kind of set up on the side here, and then one day Jeremy built him a little second stage. So he had his own little stage. And then his wife is a photographer, so she started taking photos for us, and that was her volunteer contribution, and we used those for like our grant applications and social media. So again, it was like that whole organic coming together of this team. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your favorite show?
Ask the hard question.
Doesn't have to be me.
Other than.
I gotta say,
Mariachi, that's cool.
well, no, yeah, the mariachi show is great because that's, for me, it's a big cultural thing. We do like a whole Dia de los Muertos Mexican mariachi. I love that show. But I really like the first time we hosted a French cabaret. It was like 4 female dancers, and they brought like a whole busload of feathers and sequins and all these elaborate costumes, and just like contrast that with the desert, it just seems so like out of place. But it really
Perfect.
is perfect. Yeah, it worked. That was really fun. Yeah.
Favorite behind the scenes story? Or drama?
Ooh, I don't want to get anybody in trouble here.
Hey, dramas and never is good, huh? It's pretty performing.
Nothing leaves this
That's
room.
asking the hard questions. This is being recorded.
Just
kidding.
Okay. Off the record.
Off the record.
We had a rattlesnake under the cooking chair.
Oh yeah, we had a rattlesnake. That was kind of scary.
Oh,
And there were some guests that were like, I like VIP, like name dropping. I know Jaqueline, like, can you park me? And they have like a big, 4x4 truck. Can you park me in the front? It's like, no, we don't do that here. So, there was some of that, yeah.
I think that's my favorite.
That's probably your favorite, yeah.
How do we follow you?
So we have an email list that you can get on our website, and then we're pretty active on social media. So,
What's the name of what you're talking
oh
about?
yeah, I also thought of the name.
He's gonna have to write it down.
No.
It's French, Mon Petit Mojave.
Oh, easy.
My little
Safe-
Mojave.
Safe as you.
Yeah, Mon Petit Mojave. So, yeah, we're on social media. Now we're doing shows other places. We got invited to program like at the Palm Springs Cultural Center.
Yes.
So, so that's pretty cool. It's not the same as our stage up here, but it's too cold now to be up here. So,
Do you still plan to build the dream home?
I think if the neighbor from hell, as my lawyer called him, if he moves away, yeah. If he doesn't move away, then I think there's too much negative energy there. So, we'll see. Yeah?
Does he still have the business there then, or is was the business shut down, or what?
It's officially shut down.
Shut down.
But,
But he still owns the property.
He still owns the property. But the thing, like when he goes to his arraignment, he is going to get charged if he doesn't remove everything off his property.
Oh.
Like it needs to go back to vacant land because he has no permit. So unless